Hello, hello, lovely people. So, welcome to episode 6 of Know the Happiness How with Winko Chow. I'm your host, Wing Commander Satyendra Chauhan, aka Winko Chow, an air veteran and a resilient coach from Bangalore, India. Happiness How, as you all know, is an attempt to bring smile on the faces and sparkle in the eyes of young professionals who are grappling with any issues of negativity in the workplace. In the interview series in the office and workspace, today we are going to see how is the experience of working in the field of journalism for a young journalist, and what keeps a young journalist, pepped up after a hard day in the field or in the office or on the drawing boards, and what still keeps that sparkle going after a long day. So, our guest today is a young, bright journalist who has been in the print and audiovisual media, that is television necessarily, for over 7 years. So, we welcome here Rajitha Menon, and Rajitha is joining us all the way from Kochi. So, how are you, Rajitha?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir? Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. Like I said, I was when I was starting out, I said, let me find out who all do I meet in this journey and how, I can uh, kind of do justice to the theme of this podcast. So it's lovely to have you on the show. And so, viewers and listeners, let me give you a little bit of input on Rajitha. She's a master's in commerce and another master's in business administration. She studied journalism, has worked in EXL, Bloomberg TV, ET Now, and Deccan Herald. So, her interests are pop culture, politics, and environment. So, I'm really excited to have, first journalist guest on my show, and that too from this segment, a young one who's really going to tell us, how is it when you're beginning and how challenging, if I may so, or demanding the spaces. So once again, it's a pleasure to have you on our show to talk about your journey. So tell us something that,
Thank you.
got you started, after your qualifications, and how has it been? How has it been going?
Right. So initially, I had no plans of getting into journalism. I did my BCom and then MCom in Kerala, and
Okay.
I was working in a finance and accounts firm. All set. I had my career path sorted out, but
Mm-hmm.
then a series of things happened in my personal life, and I started reevaluating my choices,
Mm-hmm.
deciding where I want to go, and deciding if I want to pursue journalism or not. And then I decided to go for journalism. And
So I I I guess it's the Wi-Fi, you know, kind of playing some prank with us. So hello, you're back.
yes,
We lost you. We
yes,
lost you for a
right.
moment. Is the Wi-Fi, I think,
Sorry
bothering
there.
you?
I
So
don't know what
30 seconds.
happened.
Yeah, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. We lost you.
Right. So, yeah, I was saying that I was just deciding what I want to do with my life and see where I want to
Uh-huh.
go and decide a career choice which would take me down the line to 5 to 10 years, and I would not be bored. I would still be
Hmm.
okay doing that. I always liked writing. I was passionate about championing causes which were close to
Okay.
my heart and making a difference in someone's life, even if
Okay.
it was in a small way. I always
Uh,
like these things. So I thought, why not go for the one field which will allow me to put all these interests together? And that's when I started my journalism journey. I joined ACJ, Asian Council of Journalism in Chennai for a year.
okay.
And though my specialization was television, I worked in television for just a year after
Hmm.
that. It was a little too much for me. For one thing, it was an entirely new city, Mumbai,
Hmm.
and the space, the 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 the, the rush, the
Hmm.
noise, and the demanding profession as such, plus the
Okay.
health issues, everything came together. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back. And then for the past 4 years, I've been in print. in lifestyle journalism, which was a very pleasant surprise for me because I've frankly speaking not had much of an opinion about the lifestyle journalism before I joined the field myself. And it
Okay.
was a very pleasant revelation.
Hmm.
And it's like, it was nice to see that it's no less challenging than mainstream journalism, but
Hmm.
it's a little more exciting and diverse.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's been my journey till now.
Okay, so uh, and as you were speaking, I was kind of slightly transported back to our first association about 3 years back, and
Hmm.
uh, we spoke for a while, and this was Aero India. For all the viewers and
Yeah.
listeners who may not be aware, this is a biennial uh, aviation show held in Bangalore, India. So, and I remember Rajitha was doing a piece on, people who are behind the curtain, and we had called it, I think, unsung heroes, something of that sort.
Right.
So it did go to show that yes, cause of the people was always a concern for you. So and as you started off, you said Mumbai, new place, and demanding career or challenging profession. So what were the challenges or demands as you had just gotten into the space of journalism? Would you like to share that with
Hmm.
us?
Yeah, definitely. So, as I said, even though my specialization was television, what we learned in college was quite different from what the real life experience turned out to be.
Okay.
Uh, one thing, it was business journalism, and television. It was fun, it was exciting, but there's also a lot of hurry.
Hmm.
You don't have space to think. You just have to do. It's more about the timing. Like you have to put out stuff there in split seconds. And
Hmm.
I was working on ticker, which means that you had to say comprise or summarize the news that you got, put it
Hmm.
out within a certain set number of characters, grammatically correct, all
Hmm.
before the other channels do it within say
Hmm.
like 5 seconds.
Oh.
So it was madness. Uh, it took me a time. It took me quite some time to get used to it. As in, but you learn by observing your seniors. You first
Okay.
of all you learn to deal with pressure. There is
Hmm.
immense pressure in television, no matter what field you're working, what desk you're working in, and you deal with the pressure. You learn to keep a cool head no matter what happens, and most of the time something is happening. Most of the
Hmm.
time it's going wrong. There are people yelling behind you, there's someone running in front, there's something is happening, someone is falling off their chair, but you don't look at all that. You have to work and make sure that what you're doing with the content goes out on screen within a
Hmm.
matter of seconds. So that's one thing I learned, like dealing with pressure.
Hmm.
And that was a challenge to pick up the terms. I was not familiar with business journalism as such. So
Hmm.
picking up the terms, what the anchors are saying, what say suppose the industrialists on screen are saying, what my bosses want me to do, markets,
Hmm.
dealing with numbers, ratios,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So that was it. But it was fun. It definitely was fun. I wouldn't say that.
Okay. This is the first time I'm hearing behind the scenes stories, and I'm sure it must be, very as exciting for our listeners and viewers too. So, uh, while while you said it was demanding and challenging, and you also said it is fun, so that goes to show the attitude probably that you were keeping, so you took it as fun. But tell us, I mean, when you look back, was there a time or, did you feel some kind of, because of the pressure that you said and the demands and with a lot of action happening behind the scenes, was it that it was causing some negativity in some space or, any other aspect which was kind of discomforting for a newer entrant like you?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the negativity part. It was just overwhelming. That's the word I would use.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
frankly overwhelming. You get in, and there's this huge space where there are
Hmm.
rows of people. There are the screens everywhere, and
Okay.
then you figure out where to look, what to do. So it was overwhelming. But
Okay.
thankfully, like if you listen to your seniors and
Hmm.
pick even more than what they're saying, if you observe what they're doing,
Hmm.
observe their actions, observe their daily routine, you'll be able to figure out your path pretty quickly. So that was okay. And it was the first time that I was staying away from my home. So it was
Yes.
a completely new city for me. That was
Okay.
also a bit of a challenge to navigate and find my path through the city, figure out everything on my own, and do things
Hmm.
on my own. So that was also exciting, but yes, challenging as well.
Okay. So, actually, for the theme of the show and for the segment that we are catering, we actually are catering to the youth who are in their first and second job and who've just moved out to a bigger places, metropolises, and they find this challenge of living alone, finding a space, or maybe sharing a room as a paying guest, and
Hmm.
maybe finding somebody there. So, do you think while it was overwhelming and on the professional front and little challenging at the personal front, can it get to somebody's nerves as a youngster, and or it can really work somebody up? Or did it happen in your space with maybe a colleague of yours or another youngster after you had become a senior who people would look up to?
Um, well, yeah, talking about the first part, it was important for me to form a support system
Hmm.
in a new city. So I had exactly one friend when I went to Mumbai. I knew one person in the entire city,
Hmm.
and she was my ACJ classmate. So she came with me, and we got into the same hostel. Now it was my first time staying in a hostel, also,
Hmm.
all women's hostel. But I think it all depends upon your perspective, the way you choose to look at things. So I could have been bothered and
Hmm.
miserable about the fact that I had to share rooms and bathrooms with a lot of girls and
Hmm.
coordinate my timing such that I would get to do all my chores without disturbing anyone else, and then figure out what train to take, how to reach office, and then how to deal with the people. Or I could use it as an opportunity to grow, to learn how to interact with new subsets of people, to make friends and observe, but yet prove a point or make a stand when I had to. So a lot depends upon your perspective.
Okay.
And yeah, so as I grew, like, and because I made a lot of friends quickly.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I'm much of an extrovert, but then if the people around you are comfortable even with your silence, or they know that you have a certain vibe that they can gel with, they quickly get you into their circles. So
Hmm.
since I mean, I had a lot of friends, I calmed down in my workspace also.
Hmm.
And within, say, I think a month or two of joining, I was made in charge of the evening ticker. Like, I had
Hmm.
no supervision.
Okay.
So that was my very first job. But then, to be given responsibility for something which goes on air without any check, and to be
Hmm.
in charge of that was a big deal for me. And
Hmm.
I was proud of the progress that I was making. So then the people who came next, I had to guide them. And I don't think there was anyone else who was new to the city like me. They were
Hmm.
all based in Mumbai. But then I helped them professionally, and we became really good friends. So
Hmm.
while I worked in the office for just a year, I am still friends and still keep in touch with all of them. It's been 6 years now.
Okay.
So so that's the thing. Like, I made good friendships in office, which I count as one of my greatest takeaways and assets from the
Okay.
time I spent in Mumbai.
So, what I'm hearing here is, one is the attitude that you take with you. You may be new to the city, or there might be challenges of living in a metropolis, which can be overwhelming and demanding and challenging. What you require is some kind of support system, like you said. And yes, all those, young people who listening to Rajitha may note that if you can make friends, develop that bonding, develop that support system which can keep you going. And yes, it does show on your work. like she says, within 3 months she was doing things independently, and actually by the time it was 1 year, she was supervising all others. So great. uh, but yes, to say that everything was honky dory, yes, like you said, it was your perspective. You were seeing good things, but was there that that word that we all have become accustomed to, something like office politics, and or something of that sort? Was there something that people need to be watchful of, or if not watchful, at least keep it at the back of their mind sometimes?
True. Um, so I worked in Mumbai or in those offices for just a year.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely was office politics, but
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't reached a level yet where I could be affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
saw it, I observed, there were others,
Okay.
and but there, since I was just finding my feet, and I had, as I was saying, I had some health issues to deal with. So I was just under the, I was going with this thing that not my monkey, not my circus. So if
Mm-hmm.
they are doing something, let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
I will focus on finding my way around. But then, now that you mentioned it, the 4 years that I worked in print industry was
Mm-hmm.
when I got the full impact of this thing called office politics. I
Mm-hmm.
saw it. I had to engage with it, navigate around it. I got
Mm-hmm.
the full brunt of it. So that is when I think you have to deal with it only after you complete a certain number of years in an office. That is when
Okay.
people, you get sucked into it. There is no option. You can't say that I will stay away from it or I don't want to have to do anything with it. It's not an
Mm-hmm.
option. You will have to deal with it. So
Okay.
for that, you have to figure out your method, what you want to do.
All right. So very, very interesting, phrase there. Not my monkey, not my circus. Great. So all those who are listening, just remember this. And while she said this, she also, Rajita also says that you have to bear the brunt of it. So what is that? I mean, do you remember any occasion, any event, any circumstance, which can probably tell our viewers and listeners as to, or maybe give them a hint as to, if it happens, how do they tackle it?
I mean, yes, definitely. I remember so many circumstances. So there are, even if it's a small team, it
Hmm.
obviously gets divided into certain sub teams. Like it
Okay.
may be seniors against juniors, or it can be
Okay.
people who speak a particular language against people who
Hmm.
don't speak it.
Hmm.
Again, when I say against, I don't mean it like a literal fist fight
Hmm.
type of way, but there are
Hmm.
subtle ways in which you exclude the outsider and you
Okay.
uh, decide to form a bond, or you decide you have that little
Uh,
company of your people in which other people are not invited.
hmm.
And so what this does is it sort of um, disturbs the working of the team.
Hmm.
So in a small team, everyone has to come together, and there may be places or situations in which one person is not able to give their 100%, and the other person will have to put in 110 to cover up for this deficiency. Now, if you feel that okay, this person is not my friend, or I shouldn't have to do all this for a person whom I don't consider close enough, the
Hmm.
entire morale, productivity, work, everything suffers.
Hmm.
So this is where office politics comes into play. It's not how they show in movies where it's big things like there's this entire conspiracy
Hmm.
to get someone out of
Hmm.
the office, or you have to do something, all these things to get your way to the top. No, it's small
Okay.
things. It's in the really nitty gritties of daily life that you observe the impact of this thing called office politics.
Hmm.
Work suffers, people are disillusioned, they don't want to collaborate with others. um,
Hmm.
you know the shoddy work comes into play,
Okay.
or people start not turning up to office also, not
Hmm.
talking to others, there is a rift, so many
Hmm.
things happen
Hmm.
but you have to observe closely to see it.
Okay.
So yeah, these are the things. Now what I that phrase that you just said, that I just said,
Hmm.
was borrowed from one of my friends, because at a stage where I was really getting bothered by it, I did not
Hmm.
know how to handle it. Like people who I had thought were my friends or with whom I could trust and say everything, they
Hmm.
turned out to be something else. just
Okay.
something else, not exactly what I expected. So I did not know how to deal with it.
Mhm.
I was a little lost. And that's
Okay.
when my friend told me this. She was like, listen, just
Mhm.
remember this. Not your
Mhm.
monkey, not your circus. You only um, just confront them or talk when
Mhm.
you feel that you're personally losing something, or
Mhm.
when something that you believe in is being threatened. Otherwise,
Okay.
I don't think it's important to butt in and give your opinion on everything that's happening in a team,
Okay.
right? There are some people who, especially youngsters, because of all the enthusiasm to make sure that everything in the workplace is perfect and goes according to rules and ethics. Sometimes
Mhm.
we have this habit of trying to clean up the act
Okay.
that's happening,
Okay.
and we'll want to talk about everything. We want to say that this is not how it
Mhm.
should be done and all that, and that sort of creates an unnecessary friction between the
Mhm.
others. So sometimes it's okay to step back and let
Okay.
things happen. It may not be
Okay.
right, but you don't have to set it right all the time. Wait your
Okay.
time, bide your time, and certain situations when you feel that no, you have to say something, then do it. Don't
Okay.
set up, uh, verbal duels all the time, even if you are
Mhm.
right. It's a matter
Okay.
of diplomacy. Like not exactly what I should
Mhm.
be telling youngsters, but it's about
Mhm.
survival. You just
Okay.
wait, just bide
Oh.
your time.
Oh, that's very interesting there, It's a matter of survival, it's matter of developing a coping mechanism with it, and it necessarily, not be that you would want to do, cleanup act or so
Right.
yes, we all believe, it's what one can do and has control over his self, not the environment, not the surroundings. So while it may be right to speak up in the worst case scenario, it is always okay to, sometimes buy your time, like you said. So yes, all those who are listening, that's a great value, and I'm very sure that people would love to listen to this and watch this coming in the kind of words, or if I may say, uh, very simply, this is being put very simply, and it is very easy to emulate, and take home. There's no big discipline here that you need to follow. So great to know that. So yes, we've spoken about the workplace and how things happen, and lovely to know that office politics necessarily doesn't mean the kind which goes on in the movies. So yes, it may show up in different ways and very subtle ways. So uh, now that you have really traveled in that journey, you about almost 7 years or plus in the industry. So what do you see your achievement? Do you have something that you can always be proud of professionally, personally? And how has it helped people around you, or how can it help people who are listening to you or who are watching you?
Right. So one thing about this profession is it teaches you patience, because you
Patience.
have to deal with, yes, you have to deal with a varied variety of people from different sections, from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different political leanings, different ideologies, different a varied subset.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to deal with all of them
Mm-hmm.
politely, pleasantly,
Mm-hmm.
professionally. And that is one thing that this profession taught me, because
Mm-hmm.
I was not a very, even tempered person. I would lose my cool pretty fast. But then you are in a situation where you have to get the work done. And when suppose you are talking to the police commissioner, or say
Mm-hmm.
someone big like an actor who is
Mm-hmm.
not in the right mood, and
Mm-hmm.
then they slam the phone down on you, and so you can't just say that, oh, I'm not going to talk to them again because they were rude. No, it's your job. You have
Mm-hmm.
to call after some time and
Mm-hmm.
apologize, even though it's not your fault. Make sure they're in the right mood. Then
Mm-hmm.
there are others who if doctors, lawyers, so many people. It all depends on their mood. But whatever their mood is, you
Mhm.
have to understand and respond accordingly. You can't let it rile you or upset you, no matter what they're saying, no matter how sad their stories are. Also, there have been times when we've done stories where people have talked about personal losses and tragedies, and you might identify with it on a very deep level. But you can't let that show that in your writing. Your writing has to be objective, and it's up
Mhm.
to the reader to make his own impressions. So that is
Mhm.
something I learned. That and one of my bosses in the paper always told me that she said that the newspaper is not for your personal grievances. Even if you feel very strongly about a subject, you can't
Mhm.
write it that strongly because there are people out there who might disagree with you. So your job is to put out a balanced view. That is
Mhm.
something that still stays with me,
Mhm.
and I've endeavored to stay true to that. That is the professional takeaway that I've got from these years in the professional and personal takeaway that I've got from these years. And apart from that, well, achievements would be the little difference that I've been able to make through my writing. Say, suppose I've written a lot about mental health and
Okay.
the importance of talking to your children about it. So I've got
Mhm.
feedback from readers,
Mhm.
both parents and youngsters, who
Mhm.
say that this has actually opened up so many new windows for me to see through. I've had
Okay.
parents writing into me saying that I did not know that you had to talk to your children about all these things.
Okay.
We just talk about, say, even mental health. Even if the conversation is just starting to develop now, we just talk about a few concepts within that. But it
Mhm.
is an ocean. There are so many things that children are still not comfortable talking to us about. So when I write about that, they say that I'm going to talk to my kids about this and see how they feel. Then this is a personal favorite. There was this musician, a
Okay.
boy who gave up his career to become a musician, and his father did not approve of it,
Mhm.
and they hadn't spoken for many years.
Mhm.
So he got in touch with me somehow, and he was putting out an album. So I did a standalone interview for him, just
Mhm.
him, not coupling him with anyone else, just him.
Mhm.
And he sent the interview to his father. And the next
Mhm.
day, he sends me a message saying that my dad was so proud. He called me, and we spoke after so many years, and that made me so happy. Like I was so happy the entire week that
Mhm.
something I did was able to make so much difference in someone's life. So
Okay.
things like this. It's not the big things like when you get to interview an actor or say
Mhm.
a famous politician and you're like, wow, I did it. No, it's not
Mhm.
those things. It's
Okay.
when one person messages you and says that I felt or this happened to me because of what you did. That is an achievement for me.
Wow. So the takeaway could be that while you might be uh, kind of grappling with the challenges and the demands of the profession, uh, it's always better to look at the brighter sides, and it's always better to count the blessings that you get by helping others, or maybe some kind of objective if you have, and some goal. So what is, do you have set out with a purpose or a vision or a goal here?
Uh, So when I started out, I had all these grand ideas of,
Okay.
making a huge difference in the society and ensuring that, as I said, that cleanup act, that mentality was so strong
Okay.
in me. But within a year or two, I had made peace with reality, and
Okay.
I understood that nothing of that sort of going to happen. Again, it
Uh-huh.
only happens in movies that a journalist writes something, and then the next day there is an entire uproar and the society is reformed. That doesn't happen at all. You can write about something as much as you want, but
Mm.
it really doesn't have to cause a difference. So
Okay.
my goal quickly turned into smaller, bite-sized pieces where I
Okay.
decided to make a difference in a person's life or two people's life. If that
Okay.
I could do, that was an achievement for me. So that became my goal. Not I did not harbor any grand ideas after that. Made my peace with reality.
Excellent. Excellent. I mean, it's always, I mean, as long as, you can understand the limitations, and you understand that you play your part, and rest is will happen eventually. Or so while you were doing that, have there been any challenging situations, or maybe one episode of something? I mean, if I may not call it a failure, but yes, a challenging event that probably came out as a boon in disguise.
Uh, well, if you ask me suddenly, like there have been times when say stories haven't worked out and then you get yelled at, you feel
Hmm.
really bad about it. But
Okay.
then the next time
Hmm.
you ensure you take that much more care
Okay.
to make sure that what you do goes through properly and you end up doing a good job.
Okay.
So that is obviously one thing that's happened 2 3 times initially when again I was
Hmm.
new to the entire
Hmm.
industry and I did not know what to do. So
Hmm.
you think that you could do something and get away with it, but no, you have to. You I quickly realized that unless you put in your 100%,
Hmm.
what comes out will not be that great.
Hmm.
So you have to, like, even if you don't like a particular story that you're working on, or don't really care about the subject, but the effort you put in has to be
Hmm.
100%, because otherwise
Okay.
what comes out will be a shoddy job and your readers will realize that.
Hmm.
So initially I had these very set topics that I was interested in, and it when only
Hmm.
when I had to write about those would I be all charged up and looking forward to work on
Hmm.
that story. But then I can't do that. There are people who want to read about other things, and as a journalist, it is my job to deliver.
Hmm.
So even if I have no idea, I have to
Hmm.
read up about it. I have to make myself educated, talk to
Hmm.
experts on the field, and then put out a balanced piece.
Okay.
So that was a challenge, yes, to get to know about different fields and evince an interest in them, know more about it, and actually get myself to write an inspired copy day
Hmm.
after day. You have to understand that every single day, 6 days a week, you have to bring out two or more stories.
Okay.
And that inspiration, the need to
Okay.
find inspiration is is immense. You
Okay.
can't just like maybe I'll take it easy today. I won't write. No, you have to.
Uh-huh.
And if your story is not good, the feedback is also pretty fast. Like next day, you get readers or people saying that, no, that wasn't nice. You shouldn't have written like that. And you're like, yeah, that's true. I shouldn't have.
So
So,
so good. So seems like it's always for you. It's been challenges within, and maybe coping up with your work, making it better. But so so it's never happened in your career where you had to kind of face some wrath of a boss, or a very difficult situation, and a tough decision that you had to make
oh,
somewhere.
yes,
Okay.
definitely. Those things have also happened.
Okay. Okay.
As I said, I think it's these past 4 years in the print industry where I've actually
Uh-huh.
experienced the entire gamut of emotions that you experience when you're working in a proper corporate field or an
Okay.
industry. Everything
Okay.
from happiness to dealing with office politics to dealing
Uh,
with, as you said, like a vengeful boss. All that happened.
uh-huh.
Now, I wouldn't want to take names, of
Yeah,
course,
sure,
but
sure.
it was a very difficult period for everyone in the entire team. Now, as you said,
Mm.
it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because when the superior is a person who's say not ideal, then the
Mhm.
team bonds.
Mhm.
Like you have to have each other's back if you have to
Okay.
survive. So
Okay.
that happened, and that is when we actually became pretty close knit as a team. And but it was a very difficult period. I think it reached a point where my mental health, not just mine but the others in the team also, like our mental health started getting
Mhm.
affected. And there have been times when we've just stepped out of the office and cried because
Mhm.
of all the bullying and the harassment that we faced. So
Mhm.
yeah, there was a very difficult time like that. Now I am glad that, and every day I would just go home and think that this is it. I'm resigning. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot take all these
Mhm.
insults and slights and
Mhm.
complaints. So every day I would think, but then the next day I would wake up and I would think that I've come to the city again. I shifted to Bangalore for that job,
Mhm.
so I've
Mhm.
come all the way. I've done so much. I've got a house. I've set up
Mhm.
a house. I'm writing about things that I care about. I have friends here. I
Mhm.
can't let one person ruin that for me. So
Mhm.
the next day again, you just trudge on to office and hope for a slightly better day. So this went on for a year or two, I think. It was pretty difficult, but then as I said, it's
Mhm.
very important to have a support system in office for that. So I
Mhm.
had two, three friends,
Mhm.
and we saw each other through that phase. It was undoubtedly one of the toughest in all our lives.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's nothing much you can do, right? If it's your superior, you cannot yell back at them, or you cannot so many
Mhm.
times when they are wrong and you know
Mhm.
it, and people around you know it, but you can't say that to their faces.
Mhm.
So it was a mix of, say, diplomacy and desperation. So
Mhm.
there's nothing much you can do. You just have to cope with it and um, bide your time.
Okay.
That's
So, that reminds me, I had this guest on my show who's been a top boss himself, and he gave
mm,
us a very good perspective. He said, remember, like you said here, that you at least have people around you, you are a team and you have each
mm,
other's back. Imagine the
mm,
boss is alone there at the top. So
yeah,
sometimes he's even in a miserable situation than you, and so at that time there's no harm in walking up to him. Like you said, you can't go and tell him, I mean, especially yes, when things are hot, you can't tell him. But do you think this would work out, that sometimes you understand the plight of your boss also? And when I say plight, I don't mean that you're not sensitive enough, but what I mean here is that think from the other person's perspective, where you feel, oh, maybe I give this also a try. Do you think that could work sometimes?
definitely. But that would also depend upon the person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's always said that the mood of the team is the mood of the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So if you set up an atmosphere where everybody is just out to
Mm-hmm.
just grab whatever comes their way, there is no trust and there is no
Mm-hmm.
empathy, then you
Mm-hmm.
can't expect the others to look at you and
Very true.
say that I should be more understanding. It doesn't work
Mm-hmm.
like that. It is a two-way bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So you start it off. You start by, say, sympathizing in someone's plight, or guiding them through
Mm-hmm.
work and maybe their personal lives. You lend them an ear, a shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
That is what leaders are supposed to do. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely, because see, another thing is, after that boss, our present senior, I believe you spoke to him, Mr. Ramakrishna. So so yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
he he turned out to be the kind of person that inspires you to think from the other's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been so many difficult days even after that. The work never changed. The work
Mm-hmm.
never changed from what I first went in and when I left. It's been the
Mm-hmm.
same. It's been that demanding. There have been so many times where you just like up to your head in work and there's nothing you can do. But it's the vibe of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was like, this is something that I have to get it done with. Like it's like I don't have any other choice. But
Mm-hmm.
when he came in, or when a good boss comes in, you see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. And then if there's a problem, then you talk to each other,
Mm-hmm.
you sort it out. But you have to be sure that your boss is going to be receptive.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important
Okay.
to both from see even from I understand what he said, what your friend said, that even from the senior's point of view, it is important to have juniors or associates who understand what pressure means at the top level management, or who are willing to put in a little extra when the team is going through a rough phase.
Mm-hmm.
So it is important for that, but for that there needs to be communication, trust, a
Mm-hmm.
sense of kinship between the team members. All that
Mm-hmm.
is important, and that should be set up initially for the smooth
Mm-hmm.
functioning of the team.
All right. Great. So, so now, I mean, uh, how's your typical day like? you know, now that you are here and with all that experience, and I'm talking of the working space. I know you've taken a break at the moment,
Yeah.
uh,
Uh,
but otherwise, yes. How's a typical day at work when you are in journalism? Although you said it is very challenging, every minute you are creating something very demanding. So, I mean, are there
yeah.
moments of chilling out also? I mean,
Oh yes,
how do you
yes,
do that?
yes, yes. We do,
Uh-huh.
we do. I mean, it would be impossible to survive for so long if
Yeah.
you're constantly. It would be like a
Uh-huh.
pressure cooker. You would
Okay.
explode. So there
Okay.
are times, there definitely times when we just take a break. Like, and I think we've bonded most over food.
Okay.
So our entire team is a bunch of foodies,
Okay.
and every time the situation is getting a little out of hand, and people are saying that, oh my God, there's so much to do. Someone or the
Mhm.
other will suggest that let's just order something, let's
Mhm.
eat and calm down. And I think we spent more than half our salaries on food every single month. We would go out and we would order in.
Mhm.
This, so that was one of my favorite chilling out moments. And the entire team just puts work away and
Mhm.
sits around a table eating, talking,
Mhm.
sharing their personal things.
Okay.
That's amazing. And apart from that, yeah, you go out sometimes, not as colleagues, but as friends. On
Mhm.
weekends, when you get that rare day off, you go watch a movie
Mhm.
or just walk around.
Mhm.
So it's important to have a healthy relationship outside of office also with your
Mhm.
at least some of your colleagues, so that you feel more at peace with whatever is happening in your life.
All right. So, I remember you making a mention of, your last boss, who I also spoke with, and well, so I will, you know, although I'm very impressed with whatever he is and the personality that he carries, the humbleness that he has. But is there anybody else who's made some tremendous impact on your life, in your career, or there is some learning that you have derived from an individual or an event which you would want to share with us?
So as a journalist, you see these senior journalists who,
Mm-hmm.
you know, can sit in their offices and do
Mm-hmm.
nothing but make a few phone calls and get their
Mm-hmm.
work done. But they choose not to do that, and they
Mm-hmm.
go out on the field almost every single day
Mm-hmm.
and they get work done.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of inspires a massive respect in me. When
Mm-hmm.
I see people who can choose to have the easy way, but they don't do it and they do
Mm-hmm.
what is right.
All right.
It's in almost every field, it is a little difficult to find people like that, but those are the ones who I believe are truly worth following.
Okay.
And apart from that, I can't really think of the top of my head of names, but
Mm-hmm.
people I've that interacted with, and you
Mm-hmm.
see how they work, you see everything that they do. There are some people who you were just like, how did you even get till here? Like, you don't deserve to. I'm being frank here. There's a lot of people in senior positions, you look at them and you just like, I
Uh-huh.
don't know what to do. But then there are others who, who continue to do a great job. And
Okay.
you look at them and you're like, that is someone I would like to be like when I
Okay.
may be a few years down the line.
That's
So I
great.
can't think,
That's
but yeah, that's it. Yes.
oh no, certainly good if you can take some learning, from somebody, not necessarily idealize anybody, but yes. So, uh, what would you want, people listening or watching you would want to take from Rajita's story? So, would
Good.
you have some takeaways for them?
Oh wow. So I think in all these years of dealing with different environments,
Mm-hmm.
I've just realized that, as I said earlier, you have
Mm-hmm.
to pick your battles. You don't have to
Okay.
fight the fight that comes your way. Pick your
Mm-hmm.
battles and channelize your energies in the right direction,
Okay.
and do make sure that you have a support system. That is
All right.
very important. I cannot stress that enough. It is important. So because of all this competition in our workplaces right now, we
Mm-hmm.
sort of see the workplace as an office where you just have acquaintances or colleagues, and our friends
Mhm.
are always outside. Now, I'm not
Mhm.
saying that you need to be friends with everyone at your workplace. There are
Mhm.
people who would be competing with, but it is important to have that one or two people who you
Mhm.
can confide with, who you can turn to when it's been a particularly rough day and say
Mhm.
that, I need a break, let's go grab a tea. And then you can
Mhm.
talk to them without the fear of being judged or anything else. So it is important to have at least one or two people as friends in your office. That's
Mhm.
important. That I really think that's what saw me through all these years.
All right. So, everybody who's watching and listening to Rajita, remember the moral of the story is that you do create your own environment, and whatever the prevailing circumstances are, if you are wanting to survive in the challenging environment, you need to have a support system. And what better support system than have a couple of like-minded people share that energy with you, lift you up when you're feeling down, and as simple as maybe having a cup of tea with you. So teamwork, team bonding, and I guess that kinship that you share in the workplace is the key behind uh, getting through a hard day. So I hope we were able to bring some smile to your faces, and we were able to bring that sparkle in your eyes with this conversation with Rajita, which has been truly refreshing for me at least. And I would want you to keep liking us, and we would make an endeavor to bring many more guests like this and have interesting and exciting conversations, which certainly would be meaningful too. So, and it is for us to maybe read between the lines, or like I say, at the end of the day, at least if I can, it can make me smile. My day is made. So that's after that so very interesting conversation. It's time to say thank you so much, Rajita, for coming on the
Thank
show, and wish we could go on. And so for that, maybe we'll call you, another time again, and bother you for one more take on this. And till then, guys, once again, I reiterate that it is difficult times, and it looks like they're here to stay. So stay safe, follow the protocol. It's not harmful. It does take some discipline. Like I keep saying, we may not have controls, but discipline is certainly within us. So with cities after cities locking down, and the containment zones increasing, I'm into one of them at the moment. The only survival is follow a discipline. And yes, very importantly, uh, one of the discussions brought out that what we can do is increase our own immune system. So eat well, exercise, do that yoga, that meditation, probably that can maintain that balance for you. And certainly keep looking after, and most of it, do keep smiling and keep that sparkle in your eyes. So till we meet you the next time very soon, it's bye bye from me here in Bangalore and Rajita in Kochi, and wishing all you young people a lovely day and lovely times ahead. So remember, there is hope and there is light at the end of the tunnel. So till then, see you. Bye bye. Take care. And it's me, Vinkumanu Satyendra Chauhan, aka Vinko Chow, signing off from Know the Happiness How with Vinko Chow. See ya.